Hi there, and welcome to the RevOps show. In this episode, we're diving into a critical but often overlooked topic, deal quality. We're breaking down how poor deal quality can throw off your forecast, what role marketing and training play in improving it, and how it impacts your overall sales cycle. Plus, we're giving you an inside look at a deal quality calculator that you can use to assess your health of your pipeline. So with that, let's get into it.
Jess, I feel like it's been forever.
It's been a couple of weeks. It's not been forever.
It's been forever. Forever. All I know is we were supposed to record on New Year's and we didn't.
And then we were supposed to record 2 days later and my power decided to not function, if I'm remembering correctly.
Was that?
Or did my power not work on New Year's and then
your power didn't work on New Year's?
There was just no way it was happening a couple of days after. So yeah. Here we are.
Then it got scheduled. Did you tell everybody what New Year's is so that they're not confused?
New Year's is the first day of baseball season.
That is a fascinating. I don't think I've heard many people describe it as the first day of baseball season.
It is the first day of baseball season. How would you? I'm sorry. Is it when pitchers and catchers report? Is that more accurate?
For the first day of baseball season, is there not a more common nomenclature for how people refer to that?
How?
Opening day.
Oh, opening day. Sorry. Yeah. It's late on a Friday. I'm tired.
Opening day of baseball season. And have we recorded since you got back? It's been longer than 2 weeks.
No, we did record. We recorded. The last episode was after I came back. We recorded once.
Okay. So you've debriefed everybody on your magical cruise?
I don't know if we spent like a ton of time talking about my magical cruise, but yes, we did debrief on that.
Was it magical?
It was magical. The ship, it was on the Magic. How could it not be magical? You know, it's the name of the ship. Because we talked about this, Doug. We talked about where magic meets the sea.
I can't remember if that was before or after. See, I can't keep anything straight anymore.
We didn't talk before because I had because we couldn't find my passport and we were worried it wasn't going to happen.
No, Fun fact. We did do before, but I didn't bring up. We didn't talk about going on the cruise
because we didn't know where my passport was and we didn't know if it was happening. Fun fact, you can go to Mexico on a cruise without a passport for those that are curious. I learned that.
So you just need a driver's license, birth certificate, and marriage license.
Yeah, pretty much. And then apparently to get back in the country, you just need a driver's license. They didn't check any of my information. Other than that, we're like, sure, you can go.
You've already been pre-cleared.
Probably. I also have a real ID. I don't know if that helps, but maybe.
Have you ever found it?
No, I did not find it. No idea. Just disappeared.
So after all that, finally getting your passport or passport card so you can go to somewhere like the Bahamas. Mm-hmm. You're right back to.
I have no passport. I mean, I can report it lost. I just candidly haven't done it yet.
And then if you report it lost, do they just replace it or do you have to go through the whole?
They send me a replacement. They just send me a replacement. There's a form I have to fill out. Yeah.
And then if you were to get it replaced, how long before it got lost again? What's your over under?
Here's the thing. I didn't lose it. It was in the safe. Who lost it? We don't know. But it just disappeared from the safe.
Maybe your gremlin needed a passport.
Maybe. How was opening day, Doug?
Opening day was a sad day.
Sorry.
It's been a sad set of days. We're 1-5.
Not starting off strong.
I haven't looked up officially, but I'm pretty sure that's considered not good.
Don't think so. Yeah. 20% win rate. 1-5.
No, 1-6.
Oh, 1-6. Okay, so it's even worse than that. Yeah.
So if I understand. No.
Sorry.
1-6.
Yeah.
1-5.
Yeah. No, I got it. I did get it.
So that would be a 17% win rate.
Oh, did you do that math in your head, or did you calculate it with
I'm
the calculator?
trying to do the math in my head, so I calculated it.
I'm actually shocked that we're recording today.
It was
the week you had and the time that this is recording is set.
Well, I needed this to rally me, because this isn't even the last thing that I'm doing this week.
It's not the last thing either of us are doing this week. We are in the end of day meeting on Friday together, Doug.
Someone scheduled a end of day Friday meeting for me where I might even have to think. Good luck with that.
Ugh.
Good luck with that. Yeah, I'll tell you, I was a guest on a podcast yesterday. So I had to deliver a presentation proposal followed by a podcast episode. Holy cow, was my brain not working. I had to grind through that. I think I did okay, but wow.
We'll find out.
We will find out. So what are we talking about today, Jess?
Talking about deal quality, Doug.
Or the lack thereof?
I mean, maybe. We'll see.
Deal quality, a missing ingredient. We actually just published a blog post on this, the missing ingredient in your forecast.
So I think where we should start
the missing ingredient in your forecasting.
I think where we should start is, if we're going to talk about it as the missing ingredient in your forecasting, what are the critical pieces of your forecast? What things do you need?
I think you're looking at 3 ingredients of a forecast with a parameter. What's your product service fit? I think people pay attention to that, right? Is there a good fit here? We look at intent, and the third piece is deal quality. The parameter is timing. And one of the things about deal quality is deal quality really comes in and drives an awful lot of, so really, if you think about it, you've got 2 to 3 parameters. Actually, now that I'm talking about this out loud, you've got fit, intent, and timing. And deal quality is kind of the underlying element that influences the predictability of all 3 of those. Because there's an element of deal quality one of the key elements of deal quality, I'm sure we'll get into this, is fit to your client profile, fit to your customer profile. Right. When we talk about fit in the forecasting element, we're talking more about, is there a need? What's the underlying need? Which is, in a lot of ways highly correlated with intent. So we allow the theory of intent, the perception of intent, to drive our assessment of deals, which drives our predictability.
Why do we let intent kind of drive us? Why does that happen so frequently?
In fairness, with no intent, then nothing's going to happen. I think, one of the things we've talked about in previous episodes when we've talked about things like metrics and whatnot is how intent has come in. It's the downside of this digital transformation, right? It used to be you could find people, you could find fit first, and then you had to search through intent, right? So I could find and identify companies that fit my profile.
Yeah.
Just because you fit my profile, depending upon what research you look at, at any given time, 3 to 5% of your market are actively looking for a solution or a product or service that's in line with what you do. So 95% of your identified market isn't actively doing anything at that point. And so if we're looking to optimize efficiency, right? So I think it's all a part of, there's a level of intent that drives efficiency in your metrics. And I think what's happened is we've over-calibrated for intent. And we've become increasingly absent in pre-intent areas. Right? If you think about it, the place where a provider has their most influence, has their maximum influence, is a period before someone's looking to do something. It's just, we've talked about it in our behavioral science episodes, right? Once I'm looking for something, I'm seeking confirmation more than I'm seeking insight. So once I've started to draw conclusions, once I think I know what the problem is, one of my favorite quotes, and I don't even know who said it, is the problem named is the problem solved.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you think about that from a buying process standpoint, that would be the phase that we would call problem identification, right? That's the highest leverage phase in a selling buying process. Yet, according to Challenger Inc., some research that they did a few years ago, sellers are only present 11% of the time, only have any presence 11% of the time in the problem identification phase. So we've gotten further and further out. And by the way, if the intent is high enough, you can overcome deal quality issues. The question is, if I'm going to invest, like if I'm spending, 30, 60, 90 days on a sales opportunity, my exposure is fairly limited. When I'm spending 6, 12, 18 months on a sales opportunity, my exposure gets a lot greater. The question of quality becomes important. And so I think as we've moved to the altar of efficiency in so many sales organizations and so many businesses, we've hit that point of diminishing returns. And that's why intent drives so much that's why intent sucks up so much oxygen.
Mm-hmm. So how do you define deal quality? Like how do you calculate your deal quality?
So I think ultimately it's up to a business to define how do you define deal quality. If you were making a product, it's kind of funny that you asked that question, because if we were making a product and someone were to say, well, how do we measure product quality? You would probably not have them in your product organization, right?
Yeah.
Right. So what you've got to do is you've got to take a look at what are the parameters that make a deal a strong deal, right? And candidly, I think one of the things that you should be doing is you should be scoring your deals on a quality matrix,
mm-hmm.
right? Because one of the things that I'm looking at, like I look at deal volume.
Yep.
I look at deal size, right? But deal quality is this underlying element that if we go back, for us, if we go back 4 years ago, our deal volume relative to today was moderate. Our deal size was high. Actually, our deal size was relative to the last 4 years was actually moderate.
Mm-hmm.
Our deal quality was very high. And so our performance was very high. We've had environments, and one of the things I would say that has characterized the last 2 years, like we've had periods in the last 2 years where deal volume has been high, deal size has been moderate, sometimes high, sometimes low, but whatever. But deal quality has actually decreased, and so the predictability of the business is less. Although if you then adjust your predictive element to the fact that, hey, you know what? The pipeline looks strong, but our deal quality score is lower. Well, we're going to need more deals to be able to hit a number.
Mm-hmm.
To a service organization or an organization that has an element where, from closed one to providing your product or service, there's any type of bottleneck or constraint that's there, that adds other elements of disruption as well. Right? If we take a look at where we are today, our overall deal quality
mm-hmm.
is lower than target and lower than it's been historically, which means for us to be able to be confident that we're going to hit numbers, we have to have more coverage, higher pipeline coverage, which then opens up the risk that because there's a lower level of predictability, we could be wrong on the upside, in which case we then need to be prepared to address that from a constraint capacity standpoint, right? So there's all kinds of other disruptions. As a seller, you tend to think more is better, right? But as a business, if what your goal is to scale, what you're looking to do is to maximize your predictability, and there's a governor on predictability, and that governor is deal quality. You
kind of hit on this, but so if you determined your deal quality is low, is it that simple that you just need more deals, or are there other things you should be looking at in relation to how to fix that and improve your deal quality?
So one element on deal quality is what one person's score versus another person's score should quote unquote be. will vary depending upon the business model. So we've got a business that's really built more. Like our business is fueled and funneled by high quality deals, right?
Yep.
Because of the implications of lower quality. We also, we invest a lot of effort in winning the deals that we win. So, there are certainly some places, and I would say that if you're a lower average sale price, if you're a lower ACV, higher volume organization, you're going to see on average lower deal quality. You're playing a law of large numbers game, or at least a law of numbers game, if not large numbers, to be able to hit those numbers. And so looking at, when your deal quality is structurally low, then yes, what you do is you increase your volume to make the difference, right? Now you've got to make sure that fits in the underlying economic model. But I think the other thing, and this is where I see, and what prompted me to write about this and suggest that we talk about it, really, I see sellers not taking deal quality into account, how they're allocating their time and investing their time. It's a fallback very much to the point of receptivity, right? If someone's willing to have 5 meetings, they'll have 5 meetings. Well, they'll spend as much time as the customer wants them to spend, to quote unquote move or push the deal forward.
So how does poor deal quality affect the forecast?
Poor deal quality makes the forecast far more variant. And I would say likely increases the downside expectation. So poor deal quality, because there's variance, your poor deal quality gives you less, there's, if you go back to the basic principle and structure that there's 2 components to your outcomes. The first is the quality of the decisions that you make, and the second is luck. The lower the deal quality, the more you're relying on luck.
Yep.
Now, with lower deal quality, I would say you're far more likely to underperform expectations. And again, I'm talking about relatively, right? So if your deal quality is, if on a scale of 1 to 5, your deal quality is a 2, and it's always a 2, then you should you should get to a place where a 2, it will have greater variance, but you'll perform along those lines. And that's where you'll need more in your pipeline than if somebody needs a 4. But if I'm typically at, let's say, a 3.5, and now I'm at a 2, and I look at my deal mix right now is a 2, in addition to the fact that there is more variance. And so to make up for that, I've stepped on the gas. So it does increase the risk that you have that disruption. You're still more likely to underperform, because low deal quality, what you're really looking at is in assessing deal quality is the likelihood of making a go forward decision on the category, on the issue, and the likelihood of going forward with you. And one of the things that I see is, and if you go back to an old sage in sales, right, you're getting them to make 3 decisions. Why change? Why change now? Why change with you?
Right.
What most companies are measuring on is, are we winning the why change with us?
Yeah.
But where deal quality gets in is more to the why change now?
Right.
Right. This is, in my opinion, why we're seeing, numbers from research. I talk about this, came from the Jolt effect, that 40% of buying processes end in no decision. Right. They're not taking any action.
Right.
Right. So you're not losing the business to somebody else. You're losing the business to inaction.
Yeah.
Right. That is low deal quality.
Yeah.
Now, can you do things to increase the deal quality? Yeah, you can. That's where, so a good deal quality matrix is partially diagnostic. Right. So what's not diagnostic? One of the criteria, and by the way, we have a calculator that we put together that people can download. We'll have a link to it in the show notes. But like our category 1, our first criteria is ideal client profile fit.
Yeah.
We give that a 12.5% weighting on the scale. So we've got 10 criteria that add up to 100 points.
Yep.
The first criteria has a 12.5% weighting. Now, that's not particularly prescriptive, right? Your fit is your fit, right?
Yep.
If you have 200 salespeople, you have 200 salespeople. If your ideal client profile is we work with companies with 5 salespeople, guess what? That's not a fit. You're not going to change that.
Yeah.
Problem definition, right, which has a 15% weighting. This is a measurement, and it's a subjective measurement, right? We can't necessarily get it calibrated down to a full objective, but this is a measurement of the clarity and strength of the problem definition. How clearly has the problem been defined, including the commitment to change and how well the change fits the organization's needs. One of the things that I see often is a very vaguely identified problem, a very ambiguous problem, right? And then we continue to pursue that. Well, that's something that as a salesperson, I can strengthen how well the problem's been defined.
Yep.
Right. So that's where I need to spend, and I always say sale 1 is all about defining the problem. Sale 2 is about defining the solution, right? I need to spend more time on sale 1. I need to go back and strengthen the problem and what the implication of the problem is. Decision criteria quality. What's the quality of their decision criteria, right? Give that a 10% weighting. One of the things I often see is there's no clear decision criteria that have been articulated.
Yeah.
Right. Something as simple as having a conversation about how will you make the decision? What will you base the decision on? Now, I'm often able to influence what those decision criteria are. It's not unusual that they might ask me, well, what do you recommend? How should we assess the decision? Right. Those are all opportunities where I can take a lower quality deal and strengthen it. Now, you give me a high intent, low quality deal, right? And I'm like, okay, well, that has the pull of a sale of the buyer saying, well, can you send us a proposal? Can you send us a proposal?
Yeah.
My question is, are you managing a sale or are you entering the lottery?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And that's where, that's where that question comes. Now, the later you get involved in a sale, the less likely you are going to be able to influence those influenceable components. So again, a large part of this is, I believe that if you're selling a moderately priced solution to something on the higher end, the mistake that's happening in sales organizations is that they're getting involved too late. How do we begin to identify where we should be involved? How do I allocate my time? That's where that decision quality matrix comes in. And now that we're talking about this out loud, I don't have this in the matrix, but it would be an interesting dimension. Maybe we'll play with it in version 2, which is an influenceable element. So problem identification, what's the score right now? Is this influenceable?
Yeah.
Right. So that way, if it's low quality, but it's influenceable, it's like if it's a low number right now, right? And the way we score everything is on a scale of 5 to -1, right? I think having zeros and -1s are right. And in the calculator that we share an example of what would be in each one of those, like what would be a 3, what would be a -1, right? And now when we look at so let me pause there. Anyways, I'm rambling on. I guess,
well, I wanted to kind of talk to you about the ICP fit piece, and you said that that's not prescriptive. Might have not been what you said, but you can't really influence that. Wanted to ask you, so if you're rating your deals and you have deals that come in and that ICP fit is -1, 0, 1 consistently, wouldn't that be an indicator of an issue with messaging and something you could then take to marketing to say, hey, we're getting these prospects.
Yeah.
Right. So
sorry, go on.
So even if some of these items, as you start thinking about and talking about deal quality, even though some of these items can't be influenced in the sales process, once they're in the pipeline, we can't do anything about it, right? But this to me gives you data points to then bring back to marketing and be like, okay, this is what we're seeing coming in. These are kind of the places where things seem off. And it does start to bridge some of that gap of what can marketing do to help sales, So I think there's a place even in some of these items where you can't do it in the sales process, but you deal with it earlier in the funnel?
I think there's three things. I think it goes to messaging.
Mm-hmm.
It goes to targeting.
Yep.
And it also goes to training. Because sometimes when like something like ICP, what we see is that this sales rep doesn't seem to bring in deals in with ICPs in the 4s and 5s. They're regularly dealing with 2s. And that's a training issue.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
They need more training on how to talk to, or maybe they need a little bit more development in understanding what the world of that would be. So yeah, if you're consistently seeing low quality elements in these places, then yes, that is structurally prescriptive. It's just not opportunity prescriptive. I would say, by the way, that anything that's scored a 2 or less
mm-hmm.
is a red flag. Yeah.
I think roles involved is another place, and roles involved could even be influenced during the sales process. Like you realize, okay, I need to work on getting some of the right folks involved. But even earlier on, that goes again to messaging, targeting, and why are you qualifying? Like, how are we qualifying these people?
So I'll tell you, one of the things, like, this is a real simple tactical thing to do. A very common question that a salesperson asks is, who's involved in a decision like this?
Mm-hmm.
We could flip that and go, typically when we're working with companies, this is who is involved in a decision like this. And they go, oh, like the number of times that I found out about a hidden decision maker because I suggested that person is typically involved, and they go, oh yeah, IT usually will review this before, right? And by the way, my ability to get an introduction to IT when I'm the one that proposes that IT would typically be involved, would need to be here, goes up dramatically as opposed to when I'm falling behind it. So again, when you understand what drives the quality of your of your matrix,
yeah,
it puts you much more in a leadership position. There's an old phrase, I've said this before, there's an old phrase that says, seek and you will find. Seek comes before find. And the saying is not search. The saying is not search randomly and you will find, right? You've got to know what you're seeking so that you can find it. So if you don't know what high quality is, you won't find high quality. If you don't know what high quality is, you won't be able to assess or judge high quality. And by the way, one of the things that I have found is it tends to be easier to deal with lower quality opportunities.
Yeah.
Right? The things that make them low quality make them a lot easier because you're typically dealing with a lot of receptivity. They've come to you. There's that.
Yeah.
Right? So, one of the elements that digital has brought and the downsides of inbound is, if you think about two things, fit and pain.
Mm-hmm.
Outbound finds fit first, and then you look for pain.
Yep.
Inbound finds pain first, then you need to look for fit.
Yep.
And we're letting that pain drive greater than fit.
I'm going to go a place I don't know that you would expect me to. I wanted to ask you about sales cycle. And I know shortening sales cycle is not always the goal, right? But how does this deal quality impact sales cycles? So they might spend more time on a low quality deal because they're easier, lower threshold, right? What impact does it have on sales cycle, low deal quality?
So low deal quality, all things being equal, low deal quality lengthens the sales cycle, because low deal quality, I mean, it's like one of the metrics. So let me share two of the metrics that we have. So one is change momentum. Right. A 5, change must occur. The demand is structural. A regulation change, and now you need a certain type of insurance coverage, right? Or you can no longer continue to operate in the business that you're operating in. Okay, you know what? They're going to do something. A piece of software is end of life, is no longer going to be supported. It's shut off on September 30th. They're going to do something. Right? There is no choice. Right? A 4 is change is important. The status quo is not viable.
Yeah. Right. So like the difference for us between a 5 and a 4 and what we do is 5 is end of life. software for his contracts ending, that software isn't working for us anymore.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
A zero is change is discretionary.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we find the right thing, we're right. So like, who's more likely to make a decision in a short period of time? Another criteria is demand gravity.
Mm-hmm.
What is the gravitational pull of what's driving the demand? The issue of 5 is the issue is directly driven by a key company initiative. Action must happen with a strong rationale to when it must happen.
Yeah.
Right. 4 is it's tied to important company efforts and is supported by multiple role players. A 2, it's viewed through a tactical lens, as demonstrated by depth of conversation and participants involved. Right. So in one case, we have the CIO on the conversation. In the other case, we have the director of IT. Which one has more gravity? Right. So that, like, if you look at that, those are aspects about quality. Which one is likely to drift off in time? Which one doesn't have the organizational pull behind what they're doing? Those are examples of deal quality.
Yeah, and so there's a couple of things that struck me as you're talking through this. One, so we've got a definition for the criteria, right? But then we have a definition for the rating.
Mm-hmm.
And I see this, so this really resonates with me because I deal with lead triage, and when we think about lead status and DQ, like always having clear definitions for those things. So I think that's a place that's really important when we're talking about rating stuff, because typically when you say, well, it's going to be on a scale of -1 to 5, okay, well, that's just like my gut. I'm going to rate it a 3. I really like that we've got ratings on the numbers, so that way it removes the element of me just like, to you, a 3 might be different than a 3 to me.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that kind of hit me is, if you're rating these and talking about them in the pipeline review, some of this stuff is going to force you to argue and have a discussion about, okay, well, is this really a 4, and is this really actually tied to a company initiative, or is it just, and this is going to prompt more discussion and probably meatier discussions within your reviews.
Well, I mean, a perfect place where this also then helps you with ongoing training and advise, building your sales team and your team's capabilities. I rate change momentum of 4, and it ends in no decision. Okay, well, guess what? It wasn't a 4. Why did we think it was a 4?
Yeah.
They, change is discretionary, but they, all of a sudden they jump fast, they move, and they go to the high cost, the higher, somebody that was more expensive than us. Okay, well, wait a second. Why did we think there was clearly more change momentum than what was there, or the problem being identified? It allows you to do a after action review, to do an AAR.
Yeah.
After sales, right? It lets you close the loop on what that forecasting principle is. It's not just, well, they seem really excited about our offering.
And so, talking about like how this would drive the sales conversation and the strategy conversations around attacking sales, how frequently would you review this? Is this something you go over in a pipeline review? Is this something you do once? That you like, what's that cadence look like?
So I think that you do a hard review at key milestones of the sales process. You also look at it very closely when deals hit a level where you would define them as stalled. So when you're getting in action, I would say take a look at the deal quality. I think the scores that you expect to see and the number of red flags are highly correlated to where you are in the process. So in your early stages of a pipeline, I would expect the deal quality is probably going to be lower. But every now and then you get something that comes in, it's in stage 1. They've got clear expectations. The decision criteria are clearly there. It's clearly laying out the solution versus the alternatives. It aligns with your unique selling proposition. The problem is and so you've got very high quality, and you can think of I can think of, and I'm sure you could name them if we were to do that, 3 or 4 opportunities last year. Like one of our highlights from last year. I'd been working with them. I've been having conversations with them for 9 months before it became a bona fide sales opportunity. but they scored high from the beginning on deal quality.
Yep.
And so it was like, okay, this one, there's no question. It's not it's the old, it's not if, it's just when, versus those that are more speculative. Now, as others progress, like, so you're lower quality. Okay, well, your problem definition isn't clear. Well, if you're early stage, not so much of a red flag yet.
Right.
If you're late stage, that's a red flag. By the way, one of the things that we look at, we look at not only what is your total score, but how many red flags do you have?
Yeah.
Once you get above 3 is kind of the place where it comes in. So if you have a whole bunch of 5s and you've got 4 2s, that's a low quality deal. And then you've got to look at that and say, now, by the way, do we kill all low quality deals? No, we don't. Right. But do we go out of our way? Do we look at our pricing differently? Do we add the next meeting that we don't think is really not? It's like, well, no, it's more, if you want to buy from us, you're welcome to, right?
Yeah.
Right. We're gonna allocate our quality time to quality opportunities.
Yep.
And that's what's enabled us to maintain a level of productivity that I don't think a lot of companies maintain.
Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on?
No, I guess I used to talk about this a lot, and I have a feeling I'm going to be talking about it a lot again. The salesperson is supposed to be an active participant in the selling process.
Mm-hmm.
If you get to the point where you ask somebody to buy from you,
yep,
you put the paper on the table, you ask them to buy, and they don't buy from you, then the reality is the salesperson made a mistake. They either recommended that you should do something that they shouldn't have recommended that you do, or they didn't identify why you wouldn't do what you should do. Because every time a salesperson takes an action with somebody, that's money, right? And it's even more than money; it's time.
Yep.
And so, we talk about scoring leads and don't spend time on leads that don't have a certain score, but then we totally drop it when it comes to the actual deal and what's happening there. And I'll tell you, businesses are performing at their best in what I've seen. And I'm not trying to sound arrogant or anything, but I've seen companies through all cycles of their growth. They're at their best when the salespeople are the ones saying no more than half the time.
Yep.
Right. We've fallen back into this old school habit with a whole bunch of new school ideology that, qualification is just a question of, well, do you have a pulse? I used to joke around, the reason, when salespeople shake their hand, they always move 2 fingers right up to the, above your wrist, because they were checking to make sure there was a pulse.
Yeah.
Right. Do you have a pulse and do you have money?
Yeah.
Right. Qualification is much more than that. And I think that's, there's a large part of salespeople being able to focus more proactively on higher value opportunities, of which quality is a large part of that value, right? I mean, if you really get down to it, that quality is, if you could figure out to a precise step what the quality of something is, you would actually get accuracy in your predictability, right? If I have 100 opportunities that score 28% in quality, then I'm going to lose 72 opportunities.
Maybe have a very upset success team as well, but that's a story for another day.
Right. But you lose 72 opportunities, right?
Yeah.
And people go, well, why is my forecasting bad? Well, if I'm predicting 72 opportunities out of if I've only got a 28% quality index,
yeah,
then my forecasting is only going to be roughly 28%. So
yep.
If you've got a 70% variance, you're actually doing well.
Cool. I have a couple of takeaways. Build in clear definitions on your criteria as well as your scale. I think that's important. I really liked what you said about deal quality metrics being prescriptive, and us really being able to break that down in several aspects of the process. How does it impact the sale? How do we review post-launch? How do we kind of get feedback back to marketing about what we can do to improve messaging, targeting? One thing about this whole thing is I feel like it removes the emotion out of the sale and sparks more conversation. So what I mean by that is like, I like you. I'm a salesperson. I like you. I want to meet with you. You're terrible for me. Like, it's a terrible deal. But salespeople do get wrapped into that relationship building and that emotion and the ability to build that relationship. And I think sometimes that overcomes them on, and they kind of put on rose colored glasses. So I think this helps negate that. And then overall, just tracking deal quality, you hit it at the end, is going to drive more consistency in your forecast.
You know, Jess, we talk about shitty RevOps here a lot. And the thing that, you know, at the base is quality. And so when you fail to take the quality of a deal into account, right, you're really creating a lot of trouble. So as you build deal quality and you create your own deal quality index for managing your deals, and again, use our calculator to get you started if that would help, I think you're going to find that's a key step to really being able to say no to shitty RevOps.
Till next time.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the RevOps Show. Don't forget to grab your deal quality calculator in the show notes and follow us on Apple or Spotify, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. All links will also be in the show notes for you. If you have any inquiries about the show or have any questions you want to ask Doug and Jess to answer, feel free to email me at hannah@liftenablement.com. Deal quality is one of the most important parts of the sales process. It's the difference between chasing deals that generate revenue and wasting time on ones that go nowhere. Make deal quality a priority, and you'll be saying no to shitty RevOps.